Hi everyone, Ariel with Arielpaints. Today's video is going to be an updated tiger video. I do have some tiger videos on my page that I did in the past, but this is how I'm typically doing my tigers these days. So in this video, I'm going to give you a lot of tips and tricks, show you some variations, and hopefully help you out with your tigers. This is a really popular design that I do, so I hope you guys like it. Also, moving into the new year, I'm going to either refilm or film for the first time all my top like 12 to 15 most popular face painting designs that I do on the job, whether that's festivals or private parties. There's kind of a core set of designs that are the face painting standards that I always have on my board. So I'm going to film all of those for you, walk you through them, talk about variations, different ways to do them, so that you have a really good baseline for face painting designs moving into the new year. So I hope you're excited. I am, and I hope you enjoy this tiger tutorial. So stick around. Okay, so I'm going to start with a smoothie blender and my star blends. I usually use star blends for the white on the job. You can use regular paint, but if you're going to do regular paint, I would also recommend using a smoothie blender, water, activate it just like you normally do. It's just a little sponge, much easier to control for the white than a large sponge. So highly recommend using these. They are disposable, but I still wash them just like I wash all my other supplies and sponges and reuse them over and over again. I really do like using star blends though. For me, it's just easy and quick. So I am going to show you guys how I start with the muzzle. So typically I will start right outside of the mouth. And then pull up. The reason I load both sides is because I can switch to the other side when I feel like my pigment is starting to run out. So Star Blends is great because it holds up really nicely. I find it to be very easy to use, very blendable. And I do have a few videos on I think I have one video on getting better coverage out of star blends that you can go watch. But if you know how to use it, it works pretty well. And of course, I do use it dry too. I feel like I get that question all the time. All right, so for my tiger, kind of similar to a cat, but I'm going to go out just a little bit. I do not want to go under my lip though, because it really drags the face down. So kind of think like a rounded triangle. And then I will usually go up here. Sometimes I'll do a little like patch of white or star in the center of the forehead, but I don't always. So then I'm going to go over the eyes, which I really prefer doing with star blends because it's just more like eyeshadow. It's more natural. It doesn't freak the kids out as much. It applies so easily. I'm not digging into water over and over again, hoping I get the right consistency to sponge over the eyes. It's just great. So I will just apply that and then I pull it right up into the hairline, like a big sweep. I realize that I look crazy right now. I'm looking in the viewfinder and I look psychotic. Great. Okay, so other eye, and I did dip back into my star blends. I'm glad I don't have anything to do later because I'm going to be a tiger. And then right up into the hairline. So the other thing about the white is it can be fairly messy. You can just get it done in like 30 seconds, get the white on, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's very forgiving. So I like just getting it over with and getting it on quickly. So I feel like I went a little bit further down than I typically would want to on the muzzle, probably just because I'm doing it on myself and it's hard to notice that stuff right away, but I really don't want it to drop below the bottom lip because it really just makes the face heavy, and it's better to go like out a little bit to create a wider shaped muzzle than it is to be too thin. So, and a lot of this kind of shape all gets defined and corrected later when you're doing your line work, so you don't have to worry too much about it, but I'm a little bit pickier when I'm on camera than I am in person or my on-the-job paints. So I will throw some photos in of like realistic tigers that I do on the job so you guys can see that it's not far off from what I'm teaching you and showing you how to do. Okay, so next step is the color. I still do a lot of traditional tigers of like yellow and orange, and when I do that, I always just grab my star blends and I do yellow on the inside here, and then I do orange on the outer part, and then I do my line work. It is so easy with star blends, and it is amazing. So smooth, looks good, lasts forever, but more often than not, kids ask me for a rainbow tiger. Whether it's a boy, a girl, an adult, teen, doesn't matter. Rainbow glitter tigers are like the #1 design I do in the summertime. So I wanted to do this updated version for you. So I'm going to take a sponge. I'm going to take one of the Leanne Courtney Fusion cakes from the newest palette. This one is my favorite. Of course, I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. I'll try to look it up later and add it to the video. So one of the keys with doing rainbow cakes and just face painting in general, if you guys have seen any of my beginner videos or technique videos, is loading everything properly the first time. It really, really makes a difference. Load everything well, and you will have to go back into your paint less. So I am not only just loading one side, I'm going to load the other side of my sponge too, and I'm going to get this nice and pigmented and fully loaded. This is a design that does go fairly quickly on the job, and it's one that always gets like oohs and ahs from everyone, right? Who doesn't love a rainbow tiger? It's like maybe arguably the most classic face painting design. You know, you think of like the zoo face painters and just the history of face painting, and the rainbow tiger or traditional tiger is pretty far up there. So it's a good design to learn. So on my cake too, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the darkest color, which is that really, really dark blue, is on the outside. Dark colors can, from the illusion standpoint, you know, they're going to draw back rather than draw out. So it's better to keep the darker colors on the outside, lighter colors in. The lighter pink color is also going to blend better with the white and not be as harsh of a transition. So I have a better chance of blending that with the pink than I do with that really, really harsh blue. Now that is not a hard, fast rule. I have done butterflies that are dark on the inside corner and light on the outside. It's just a general rule of thumb that you want to think about, so keep that in mind. Since I've been talking, I am going to spray my rainbow cake again and load up one more time to be safe. And I'm going to get my fine glitter ready as well, my spritzer here, so that when this is wet, I can spray it with glitter. Okay, so I usually start at the top and I start to dab. One thing you will notice is that I don't just plop the entire sponge down and start going like this. What I've done is I'm taking the corner and I'm sweeping through that gap with the pink, and then I start laying more of the sponge down. See how I'm getting more and more color as I go? And then I start to press and pounce, and then go back press and pounce and twist. I can manipulate the sponge so I get that dark blue, and then I'm going to go back just with that dark blue. I'm going to create an edge, and then I'm going to pull it around. So think of your sponges as a tool that you are manipulating, not something that is just going to control you, right? You got to control the sponge. I'm going to switch hands so that I'm not blocking this too much. So again, I'm going to pull up that pink, fill in that gap, and then I'm going to start to pounce, press, and manipulate the sponge. My hair is getting messed up in there. All right. So press, 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 pounce, pounce, pounce. I'm going to also kind of press and sweep the sponge, which will give me a little bit of a better edge. Rather than if I just pounced, I'm going to get kind of a stipply edge, but I want a nice smooth edge. So I'm just going to go like this, manipulate that paint. Now I do want to fill in where I was going to have kind of like a little, star. So I'm just going to manipulate the sponge to add a little bit of color in there so that I have like a breaking point of where the top of that little triangle or star shape. I don't know why I said star. I meant triangle. So I've got a little bit of color. I got a little bit muddy, but it doesn't matter because when the line work is on, it's going to be fine. So now what I'm going to do is go under the eye, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now my sponge is getting a little dry, partly because I am being way too talkative, because that's what happens when you train, is you end up talking and your stuff goes dry. Typically though, and I didn't reload yet. I'm going to see if I can get away with not reloading to show you guys this is possible. But typically on the job, if I have loaded this well enough, I do not need to go back into my paint and reload, which is great from a sanitary stance and also great from just a time component, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get that base down under the eye, trying not to go any further down from that lip because I don't want this to drag the entire design down. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to pounce, pounce, pounce. I'm going to pull up and get some paint into that corner of the eye so that I don't have any gaps. And I'm going to press. And sometimes when you think you have no more paint left in your sponge, pivot the sponge to that other corner you loaded. Really press. Think of it as like pressing out like soap from a sponge, right? You got to squeeze the paint out. Same thing on the skin. You got to squeeze the paint out on the skin. Now, I have talked too much and I'm being kind of slow, so I need to reload. It's fine. I personally don't think of it as a huge sanitary issue to reload a sponge that I am putting on someone's cheek. If you do, get a new sponge. But I will tell you right now, I'm not here to argue with you guys about sanitary practices and face paint in the comments. So if you have a personal opinion on that, please do what you feel is comfortable. But this is not a standardized industry and you are not the police of everyone. So please be respectful. I will, though, tell you that any sponges I'm using directly around the eyes or like Star Blends, these I put in my dirty pile and I wash them, right? So I'm not using the same white sponge on everyone's eyes. Every single kid gets a new sponge or a new Star Blends applicator if it's going over their lips or their eyes. However, when I am painting something that solely is like on the forehead, like my unicorn sponge that I use, I don't always use a new one. I will use the same one over and over again because, oh, my phone just dinged, sorry. I will use the same one over and over again because to me, it is not an issue. All right, I gotta turn my phone off here. Hold on. All right, see, much better. I had really run out of paint there. So now that I'm reloaded, I'm gonna fix this little spot up here where I got kind of dry. Oh yeah, see the difference? See when you don't have dry paint, there's a lot more to work with there. So we'll clean her up a little bit. And then we'll just blend her in, do a little stippling. And then at this point, you can go ahead and clean up those edges a little bit. If you guys know me at all, you know I'm usually not too worried about this kind of stuff, especially on the job. Kids are usually so excited and so in awe of what you're doing anyways, that I've never had a kid come back and say to me like, oh, this side isn't even. That's never happened to me. So I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky. Okay, so while everything is wet, I will take a spritzer of glitter and I will go ahead and add glitter to the design so that the base is nice and shiny. And then for my tiger stripes, I use a dagger brush, usually about like a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch dagger brush. I have the face painting dagger brush and I have the one from Marcella Bustamante from Blazing Brush. They're both great. I like them both very much. So I will grab either one of those. I think I'm going to use my face painting one, the Face Paint Shop one today. And then lately what I've been doing is grabbing a split cake and using the darker colors on that split. Blue and black tend to work really well. You could also do like black and brown combination, but I really like the contrast of the black and the blue. So I'm going to pick up those two colors on my dagger brush. If you are not familiar with dagger brushes and you are curious about them, I have a very elaborate video on dagger brushes and what I use them for. My #1 favorite thing to use them for are tiger stripes. And I will show you why. So I usually start up in the forehead, and sometimes I'll start with the smallest kind of configuration of stripes. Sometimes I'll start with the biggest. Lately, I have been doing the biggest. So I'm going to start on the toe of that dagger brush, and then I'm going to press down, and then I'm going to pull. Then I'm going to meet it at the top, and I'm going to do the same stroke. And I'm just going to kind of enclose that little white spot that I created. And I love the dagger brush for this because it creates just some really irregular, fun shapes. And when you are in the zone and you are not talking like I am, you can do this so fast. All right, so now let's just get it done. So I like to pull the lines down. Sometimes I will go kind of flat on my brush and then do a line that just comes from the top as a stripe, just to change it up a little bit so they're not too perfect. If it seems too perfect, it seems kind of like unrealistic to me or something. So I do that, and then I just start filling in the gaps. Now, it depends on the age of the child. I don't always do this, but if I have a kid who's old enough, I will say to them, hey, I'm giving you liner, so going over your eye, and then I give them a nice little liner with kind of like a, I don't know, almost like a dot in their tear duct, just to accentuate the eye. But again, I don't always do that, and if they're a little kid, I definitely don't do that because it just freaks them out. So, all right, this part usually goes pretty quickly. Get those stripes on, and I use the dagger brush for everything. So one thing I don't love is having this to be too open. So depending on Like whether it looks unfinished, I might just plop a couple little dots in just so it doesn't look like a big gap. And as you can see, I just did it with the dagger brush. They're more like triangles, but it doesn't matter. My whole purpose here is to be quick. So now I'm going to do a stripe down on the side, but notice I'm having everything end at a focal point in the center of my face. So same thing, I'm gonna do a little stripe coming this way, and I'm gonna have one this way, but I think I'm gonna turn it into kind of a triangle. But everything is pointing inwards towards the center of the face. So I'm gonna get my brush reloaded here and do the muzzle. Straight up. Couple of little curls for the stash, and then I'm gonna do the tiger nose. I usually just go right over the bottom, and then I pull it down around the nostrils. Don't forget, feline noses are low so that you have that elongated cat-like look. They are not big and bulbous like a dog. I will often go like this just to elongate the nose even more, just a quick little sweep up, and then the little triangle. Depending on the shape of the kid's mouth, sometimes I will connect these two. Obviously I'm wearing lipstick, so it's a little awkward. But if they have like a really defined Cupid's bow, which I have a little bit of a defined Cupid's bow, and a larger upper lip, it can be really awkward. So you either need to completely fill in the upper lip with that same color and connect it. That will give a really good illusion, which I will do and I'll show you guys. Otherwise, just leave it. Just like that. It'll be fine. So you do kind of have to adjust based on the child's face. And that's true for lots of designs, like forehead designs specifically. Sometimes kids sit in your chair and they have a really, really short forehead and they want a unicorn. And you're like, oh, this is going to be hard to do like a big unicorn horn, right? So that's something we can chat about in another video. But just remember, you have to be like fluid. You have to kind of think on the fly. And if something isn't going to look good on a specific kid or adult's face, pivot, do something else. The other thing that I typically do is I usually start with the top and then I go around. So I sweep around the face. I don't always go one side and the other. When you're new and you're beginning to face paint, doing one stripe on this side and one stripe on this side, or counting and going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, can really help with symmetry. And it's a great tip. After a while, when you are so used to face painting and it's just second nature, moving from one side fully to the other is going to save you minutes on designs. So typically that's how I do it now. I don't go back and forth. So then I would go right to this side of the muzzle, can't talk, and then I do my little sweeps. I was talking and my paint got dry. So another sweep in, sweep in. Usually these are a little bit more exaggerated. There we go. I was being a little light-handed. I can be a very, very light-handed painter too. Sometimes I have to tell myself to do like thicker line work. Everyone's a little bit different. I have friends who are just more like cartoony with their line work and their strokes. It's just their style. I tend to be just really, really light-handed and delicate. So sometimes I have to like amp it up a little bit. But there we go. There is the base tiger. What I typically do though from here is add fangs. So let me grab some white. All right, so Get some fangs on. Oh, I told you guys I was going to show you how to connect the muzzle. I'm sorry, I forgot. Let me do that first. Okay. So this creates a really nice illusion when you do fill in the upper lip and connect it. See the difference? It's so much more cat-like. See? Crazy, right? I keep looking in the viewfinder so I can see it myself. So it is really helpful. It's worth the extra step. But again, you know, depending on how COVID conscious you're being, if you're trying to not go over lips, just don't. If you don't have a good setup or time to wash out your brushes, you know, whatever your situation is, adjust accordingly. But it is pretty cool when you can do it. It's like a really good illusion. So while you have white on your brush, if you're feeling extra, you can always do some dots in some of your bigger stripes, which can be fun, not necessary, of course. I do like to highlight the nose often because that's a fun place to highlight. And then I love giving kids a glitter lip. This is a like pressed wax glitter. I will usually put lipstick on them first, and I do use real lipstick. Let me grab it. I use the matte lipstick from Too Faced. It's my favorite lipstick and it wears really well. What I do is I pull the applicator out. I'll get as much pigment on it as I can, but then I have my little lipstick applicators that you just get from Amazon, and I pull the pigment off of the stick with the lipstick applicator and apply that way so that it's more sanitary. The reason I use real lipstick is because face paint is water activated, and those kids are about to go eat birthday cake and drink Kool-Aid, and they will come back and ask for their lipstick to be reapplied if it's face paint 100 times, and it drives me nuts. Once I switched to this, I had less kids asking me to reapply it. It's a matte lipstick, it's meant to stick, and it stays a lot better. Not that it stays perfectly, because they're little kids, they can mess up their lipstick. Let me put that back. But it is so much better. So I think it was a great investment. And they had some pretty cool colors. I have it in blue, I have a sparkly one, I have a gold one. So it works for me. But so, you know, do what you are comfortable with. So the other things that I have been doing and that I did this summer that were really fun is I did stars on my tiger. So I really like this ooze stencil, star stencil. So I would do just like black stars on the top, which I will do. Let me grab a little dauber. All right, so I will use paint and a dauber with my stencils. But when I'm at crazy festivals, I love using star blends and stencils. If you guys have not done this or have not tried it, or you struggle with stencils, this is like a life hack, man. I love doing this. Okay, so this just adds like a fun extra little element to it. And normally when I do stars or have been, I've kept this piece of the tiger like down a little bit more. So like shift it down here. And then the stars end up like more like mid forehead, but I wasn't planning on doing this, so I didn't do that. However, I think I can still fit them kind of right above. So give me a second. It's so hard to stencil yourself. I'm going to do this unevenly. I know it. All right, we're going to give it a go. But if you are not using star blends, stencils, you are missing out because it is awesome. All right, so just sweep it and bam, stars. Cute, right? You can even, like, in those gaps that sometimes I really hate but I don't know what to do with. Stars. How cute. Oh, look, I'm smearing. Maybe that's what I'll start doing in that gap, because I just feel like, I don't know, the dots are boring and stars are always cute. So just a little way to fill in. And then the last kind of extra thing I'll do if I have time is glitter. And the boys and girls all love glitter. This is a chunky wax-based glitter that's super pretty. So I usually stick it right there. Sometimes I'll fill in the corner and then kind of on the outside. I don't want to overdo it because I do have that white iridescent glitter on the whole part of the face, but you know, can you really overdo it with glitter? Not sure you can. Shoo. Add some of that. And there we go. That is my updated tiger design. I hope you guys liked it. I hope it was helpful. Hope I gave you some tips. And stay tuned because I'm gonna show you all of my typical designs, like top 15 designs that I paint and have been painting for years. I'm just gonna run through them for you. So stick around, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.